welcome to the show. My name is Yayan and today we're going to show you how to make cheap budget food. Right, keeping a knife sharp is essential when cooking, so here's a quick video on how to do that.
Sharpening a knife. Okay, sharpening a knife. I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to sharpen a knife. Now I've got this Morrison's blade here, very cheap, only a few pounds. And as you can see right there, I can push on that and there's, I don't know if you can see there, but I'm having to put quite a bit of pressure on that to pierce it. It's really blunt, not very good. Okay, two ways to sharpen a knife. First one is the traditional steel. Now with the steel, you can get these are really cheap. You just got to run them under, over, and run that blade across. The idea being is we're taking away the top layer on this little bit of steel here. That's one way. Okay, that's the most traditional. You could buy one of these. This is a little sharpening tool. Run the knife down the middle. You may find these on a wall of a kitchen, often used that way. Now this blunt knife now sharpens straight away. So you can see now there's no effort in cutting that tomato. And that's how sharp.
Right, today we're going to be making ratatouille. Traditionally a French dish, it's a stewed vegetable. So that's all it is, vegetable stew in French. So today we got 1 tin of tomatoes chopped, 2 onions diced, quite fine, and then you got 3 peppers, red, yellow and green. They're chopped into 1 centimetre dice. You've got half an aubergine, half a courgette, diced 1 centimetre. It's really important. And then you've got 4 tomatoes, which we're going to turn to concasse a little later, and I'll show you what that means. So some people find it hard to actually cut these. So here's a little video on how to do that and get the best out of your product.
Cutting and de-seeding a pepper. Okay, so cutting and de-seeding a pepper. Here we are, nice green pepper. Really simple. A lot of people toil over this. It's really easy. Chop off the end, all the way down. What you're left with, 2 pieces. That bit, pull out the middle. That is still useful. It's full food. You have the middle now. You can see all those seeds in there. You don't want to be cutting through here and making a mess. Just rip it out, chuck it in the bin. All that white pith in there is very, very sweet. You want to take that out of there. There we go. Chop it down the middle and slice. Simple as that.
So I've finished most of my preparing of my veg, just finishing off the courgette now, into 1 centimetre dice. Quite important to get all your veg the same, otherwise you end up with things cooking unevenly and then it all goes wrong. So yeah, just finish cutting this up. Right. What we want to do, we're going to get a pan of water on. We want to get this boiling for the tomatoes, okay? So we want this on quite a high heat. We'll bring that up to a boil. So we want to get a bit of salt in there as well, just to season them. Well, while that's coming up to the boil, we can start getting some of our stuff on as well. So you want a bit of oil in the pan, so you don't burn any of your ingredients. You want to get this pan nice and hot, so you don't want to put your cold veg in, otherwise it's going to take forever to warm up. Right, I've almost finished preparing my vegetables. The only thing I haven't prepared is the aubergine. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. On the hob right now, I got boiling water for the tomatoes, so I can do the concasse. It's really important, this is in a dish. It adds freshness and a little bit of zing to the dish. And on the other pan, I got oil heating up now, ready to go on. So we get a hot pan to cook our onions. If you put it in a cold pan and bring it up, you're going to get uneven cooking, you're going to get mush. You put it all in a hot pan, everything cooks quick, and you get that nice taste to it as well. Right, so concasse tomatoes. All you do is get a little knife and cut the core out, like so. You cut this out because it penetrates the flesh and helps the skin peel off a bit easier. And then you slash across in an X on top of the tomato, so they kind of open up. So you want 4 of these done like that. So like I said, around the core with the tip of the knife and pop it out. Across the top on an X, like so. Not too deep. You don't want to really penetrate the flesh too much, but you want to penetrate enough so the skin comes off. So, like I said, in the knife, X. Doesn't have to be too perfect, but you know, it's nice to get a lot out of your product like that. And you pop these in your water, and basically all you're looking for is waiting for the skins to peel off and the tomatoes starting to bulge. That'll take 2 minutes. When you're done with the water as well, don't throw it away. It's good to keep it, because if you reduce your sauce too much, you can add a little bit of that, because that's still got flavour in it. It's like the thing, this is a big flavoured dish. You need a lot of flavour in this. So in here I've got two onions, nice finely diced, right? So we want to get this into our hot oil, like so. Give them a stir. A little bit of salt. Salt not only has flavour, but it actually stops your onions from burning too much. Turn that down. Because the salt draws the water from the onions, so you don't burn your onions too much, but still keep your eye on your onions. At this point you want to add your peppers that we prepared earlier and give them a stir. Like so. Right, my tomatoes are done, so we want to get these out the water. Right, and take that off the heat. Like I said, don't throw it away, keep it. Right, to the front one. Remember, don't burn this, otherwise you get real bitterness in your end product. Like I said, the tomatoes now, the skin has come off, so you don't get that chewiness from the skin when you're cutting it up and when you're eating it. So you want to take the skin off. It will be hot, so it's probably best to let them wait a second, just to cool down a bit. But, you know. Right. So remember, keep on top of your onion. Make sure they do not burn. That is essential that they do not burn. Right, so with your knife then, cut it into quarters, like so. And then you want to take the seed out in the waste. Or, if you were making a stock, you put them in your stock. Right, you want to bring your peppers and onions down to a sweat. You want to sweat them off. So they're nice and soft, because they don't take as long, but they take more time to develop flavour than any other thing, because they're quite watery. You don't get a lot of flavour from them unless you char them, which in this case we don't want to char them because they add bitterness to the dish. Right, and now come to the last tomato, taking the pips out. It doesn't have to be too perfect, because again those juices add flavour, but we don't want to have the pips in there as well, because it's not a nice texture to have, but you don't have to be perfect on it. And then what you do then, you dice them up. Doesn't have to be spot on, because if you think about it, your tomatoes are going to break down and create a nice sauce before you add the chopped tomatoes in. This adds a freshness to the dish and not that fake taste which you get from the tin stuff, because a lot of it is artificial. So, and then add that in. So that is concasse. I know it seems like a pain in the backside, but it's worth it at the end product. And add that. Now bring that down. Those juices will release into this dish, and you get a nice like sauce starting to come out, and that freshness comes through. Right, so we want to add a little bit of pepper at this stage, because those tomatoes need to take on some more flavour. Remember not to over season, otherwise your end product either becomes too salty, too peppery, and you just ruined your time you just put into the dish. Stir. Right, at this point you want to add your courgettes. Right, so add them and let them cook down. While we're waiting for that to cook down, we can prep the aubergine, which is what I'm going to show you next. Right, so you only want half an aubergine. So, yep. And then what you do then, you get your aubergine down the middle. Get your aubergine again, down the middle. Down the middle. So you get 4 sections. They don't have to be spot on, but the better the spot on, the faster it takes to cook. And then you don't end up with overcooked vegetables. So you don't want too much aubergine because it adds too much of a really like weird flavour too much, and it can overpower the dish and destroy all those lovely flavours you've added in, because you got to think they're not very strong flavours. This is quite a strong flavour once added. Add them in. And you want to cook this down. That'll take about 5 minutes to cook down. So you want your lid. Yeah. Get a bit of this. You want to create steam. You want to steam them. So use your tomato water. Just think those flavours you added earlier, the salt, the tomatoes which you're cooking, and put that on and let them steam for a couple of minutes. Right, while we're waiting for that to cook, we can cut some garlic just to add to the dish. Now, I didn't add the garlic earlier with the onions, which a lot of people would say, but to me, the garlic is what gives it flavour, because it's a French dish. Of course, garlic is quite French. So I like to add mine a little bit kind of towards the end, so you get a nice garlicky flavour from it, and that enhances the flavours again. So what you do is you get your garlic, take the skins off, squish, chop it up. Right, well, you don't want these big chunks of garlic because it's not very nice. Biting into a big chunk of garlic is quite a horrible taste. If I went there and I had that happen, I would send that back, but that's me. So a little trick is, get a bit of salt on the edge of your desk. Right, and then you put your garlic on there, and then scrape it with your knife. And what this does, it makes it finer, so you don't get those chunks. And the salt draws out the oils and the water from it, so you enhance the flavour of the garlic again. So you're bringing out those flavours. The whole point of this dish is flavour, because again, you're not getting a lot of flavour, you're not getting fat in it, there's really little oil in it. There's no butter, because it's quite healthy, but you could add butter as a flavour as well. Right, so keep your eye on this so they don't burn. So take it off every couple of minutes and give it a stir. You don't want the bottom to burn, but those vegetables are coming down along nicely. So like I said, we've got the garlic as well now, so add your garlic. Yep. You don't want too much garlic, you want enough garlic to taste. A bit more water to that. Steam it again. Right. The tomatoes we can add in a minute, which are going to create our sauce. Right, we've already got a bit of a sauce in there at the moment, so you can hear it boiling. From the tomatoes, which we added in, and the water which I added in from that, which is creating the steam to steam the vegetables, but it's also creating that sauce as well. The tomatoes are going to help with the sauce even more and thicken it, and you have a nice, rich, thick tomato sauce to add to your ratatouille. Right, these vegetables, I would say, should be about there. Remember, tasting is important. You can't know what it tastes like unless you taste. So taste, taste, taste. Right. Or chef's perks, whichever one you want to call it. Any excuse. Right, those vegetables need another 2 minutes. And then we can add the tomato puree and the tomato. This adds the sauce, this adds more flavour, because you want that tomato flavour, because it is a tomato soup, which is ratatouille. Both vegetables are lovely, they're soft, they still got a bit of al dente of a crunch. Al dente is to the tooth, that's what that means. I like my veg like this, it gives it a bit of texture. I don't want mush on my plate, otherwise I'll just eat baby food. So now we want to add some of this. We don't add too much of this because it'll overpower it and you'll just destroy those lovely flavours you've just added to the dish. So about a teaspoon is plenty. Any more, you've just wasted your time really. So this helps create that those lovely flavours, bring them together. It doesn't, you know, if you add too much, it destroys it, but if you add just enough, it enhances those flavours. Right, so now we're going to cook that out like just a second, just so the tomatoes, you don't get that raw tomato paste, because that is horrible as well. So you just want to cook it out. Keep stirring it so you don't burn the vegetables. Add a little bit of water in there to help steam them up a bit. Right, that's cooked out enough now, so we're going to add these tomatoes. Now, like I said, 1 tin of tomatoes, but always do it to eye. 1 tin of tomatoes can actually weigh more than what they're saying. I've noticed that with butter. You know, you weigh it, it says 250 on the packet, you weigh it, it actually is 255. So you just gotta be careful. So do it to eye. So if you think it's not enough, you know, don't worry about it. You'll add that, say, a curry or something. It'll keep like that for a week. So, you know, don't be too worried about it. But I don't have enough. That's plenty in there now. Right, so what we want to do now, we want to cook this down, because the tomatoes now, all you're really going to taste with that now is tomatoes. You want those flavours to come back into it and enhance those tomatoes. So, like we did before, lid on. Oh, actually, no, we're going to add some pepper, actually. My mistake. Just to help those flavours come back together, a little bit of salt. Stir that in. Now, if you add too much salt, like I said, a lot of things will destroy the dish, but salt also enhances it as well. So be mindful of how much salt you put in, but don't put not enough in, because otherwise it won't enhance the dish enough. So we're going to let that cook out now for like another 2 minutes, stirring it frequently to make sure it doesn't catch and burn, and then we'll be ready, and you'll have a nice ratatouille, the French dish of vegetable stew. Right, our ratatouille is now finished. The flavours have enhanced the sauce and thickened lovely, and it's not burnt at the bottom of the pan. Right, so now we want to serve this up. So we want to get a spoon, nice size spoon, for the bowl. I want to bring this one here. We just want to let that cool a second. We don't want to put it in boiling, otherwise it's going to spit all over the plate. So just let that cool a second. Cool down a little bit. Right. And this is my ratatouille. You got the vegetables in there, which give it a nice body. You got that thick tomato sauce, and you got the flavour in there as well. Now the ratatouille you can use as either a dish for eating, or you can use as a side dish for something else. There's no place for it. So here you are. That's my ratatouille, the French vegetable stew. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the show. Now, lots of people have hundreds of knives in their knife kit, knife drawers, you know, so not many people know what they're used for and how they're used. So here's a quick video on how they're used and what to use them for.
Selecting and using your knives. Okay, selecting and using your knives. Basically, we need 3 knives in our kitchen. We need a small one, nice and easy, good for using like cutting chickens and fish and intricate work, nice and small one. Second knife we need is a serrated edge, used for breads, pizzas, that kind of stuff. Stuff where you need a little bit more of a sawing action to get through. You could obviously carve poultry with that if you wanted to. And the third knife, the one I'm going to use for demonstrations more so today, is a wide, large bladed knife. Great for just about everything you need in the kitchen. So I'm going to use this knife to demonstrate 3 basic cutting techniques. The first one is with a cucumber. So we're going to cut the cucumber down the middle. Let's take that wrapper off there. Okay, so the first one is all about keeping the knife tip on the board and rocking the knife backwards, okay? However, we want to keep our digits. So what we want to learn is how to pass the knife by your fingers without chopping the edges of your thumbs and fingers. So it's really simple. What we're going to do is position our fingers, our actual tips themselves, right on the board so the knife can pass, and keep our thumb out of the way. So here I'm going to hold on to the cucumber, I'm going to tip down there, I'm going to stick my knife on the board, and I'm going to rock. And now I can do that, and I can confidently look at you. I can look away, no problem, because I'm not going to lose any digits. Okay, as I'm getting close to my thumb, obviously, take a bit more time. But there we are, our cucumber ready for a salad perhaps. The second technique, same thing with the fingers, because we don't want to lose any of those, is basically about the up and down action. So we're using it as a hacking action. Now you can see they're perhaps a little bit thinner than those, a little bit more accurate as chopping technique. So that's technique 2. Get rid of that. The third technique is basically for herbs and spices, for getting things down to a finer point. So here we got a little bit of parsley. And this one is about rocking around and cutting from multiple angles. So here we can do this, we can come across, we can use this rocking action to break up our herbs and spices into a smaller action. Now because I'm holding the top of the knife everywhere, there's no danger of chopping any fingers, losing any digits at all. Simple. Nice, fine, thin parsley.
Right, today we're going to be making spaghetti bolognese. The ingredients that we've got first today is 1 tin of tomatoes, 1 celery, 1 carrot, 2 onions diced, 200 grams of mince, beef and pork. It gives it that extra bit of flavour. We want 1 teaspoon of tomato puree. We've also got basil, oregano and parsley as our spices to enhance the dish. We got a few cloves of garlic because it's an Italian dish, so you want a lot of garlic in there, and a bay leaf as well. Right, we're going to prep our onion. Now a lot of people find it difficult to cut these, so here's a quick demonstration from a video of how to do this.
Cutting an onion. Okay, so cutting an onion. 3 basic ways to cut an onion. We're going to cube it, we're going to slice it, and we're going to dice it. Okay, so we've got a really nice large onion here. I'm going to run straight through the core. Get the hands either side and drive straight down the middle. I got 2 halves. I'm going to discard that half for now. Let's work with this half. So the first thing I'm going to show you is simple slices. So this is the kind of thing you'd use for hot dogs. So, straight down the middle there. Now then, we need to get the skin off. Now don't be tight. The onion is the cheapest thing you can buy, vegetable you can buy in the shop. So take enough off. Don't just take that little bit off and leave all this hard stuff. That doesn't taste nice. Get rid of it. So I've left the core on there just to keep the shape and the form. So, slice. Keeping our cutting technique, keeping my fingers and thumbs out of the way. Nice slices. So what you've got is nice long hot dog. Cook that, boil that up. Lovely. So that's the first one, let's lose those. Okay, dicing small cubes now, very good for spaghetti bolognese, that kind of quick Italian food. Again, plenty off. And what we're going to do here, we want to get nice small cubes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the knife parallel to the board. I'm going to take it up and I'm going to take it through that way, and I'm not going to take it all the way, I'm going to stop it about 9/10, 3/4 of the way through. I'm going to do it a little bit further up a second time. Then, holding the form, I'm going to come down, several cuts down here, as many as you can go without losing fingers. And then finally, we're going to run down the knife through it all to produce those nice, fine cubes. Get rid of the end. And you've now got some lovely, fine cubes of onion. Okay. Onion is not a very forgiving vegetable to put in your food. It's very strong. You need to know how to use it so it doesn't overpower your food. However, if you are cooking something for a long time and you're going to put stews on, casseroles, that kind of thing, then you might want the onion to be a bit larger to hold a little bit more form. So what we're going to do is just cube it up. Simple. Run it through, run a half through like that. We can take off, just peel it back. And I've kept the end on purposely, and that's so it holds its shape inside the cooking. And what we're going to try to do then is when we're cooking that, it's going to take the flavour in, it's going to release the flavour, but it's going to give you nice chunks when your casserole is done. And so all 4 of these then, great way to use your onion, get that flavour in nice and quick. Just take the final one off, and there we are, half an onion, 4 cubes, ready to go. That's that cutting.
Right, spaghetti bolognese. What we're going to do, we're going to get some oil. We're going to want 1 teaspoon in the pan. get quite hot now. Just get that heat up. Right, while that's heating up, we're going to get this mince. Right, that's quite boring on its own, to be honest. So what we're going to do, we're going to enhance this. Because if you put the spices in with the onions and all, it's going to kill that, which is just going to burn. So we're going to add this to this. It keeps it wet and it enhances the meat. So we want 1 teaspoon of basil, like so, teaspoon of oregano, and a little bit of parsley just to give it a bit more depth. So now we're going to mix this up together. Use your hands. Don't be afraid to mush it up. It's fine. Just don't break it up too much though. So I'm going to get all those spices incorporated into the meat. Like so. So now you've got those spices in there. It's going to enhance the flavour. So what I want to do now, I want to get some butter. Right, so our oil is nice and hot now. We're going to add a bit of butter to this to enhance the flavour and to give it a bit of depth in everything. So you want to add that. Right, you're going to turn that down. Right, the reason why you add butter and oil together, it prevents the butter from burning too quickly. But you don't want too much, otherwise it's going to be fatty. Right, so our butter is melted now. We're going to add our 2 onions diced and fry them off, like so. Right. Like so. Right. Give them a stir. Don't burn your onions. You do it at this stage, you'll have to start again. It'll cause the dish to go bitter, and you'll end up with a horrible tasting spaghetti bolognese. It'll be very bitter and just not enjoyable. Right. So like I did before with the salt, bring out those waters in the onion. Like so. Right, now we want to add our carrot. Try not to add the celery. Make this awkward. If a little bit goes in, it's fine. Just add it all in. Like so, right? Cook that off. The reason why you add the carrot is because carrot takes a little bit of a while to cook. So you want to cook that out as quickly as possible. That's why we diced it, look, so it cooks quicker. And so, the reason why I add the carrot and the celery is because celery is quite an Italian, so you want anything Italian possible to help flavour it. And you add the carrot for the crunch, and you add it for the taste, because it gives a nice sweet taste to it. Like so. So let that cook out a second. Right, we've got a pan of water here, which I've started to boil, so we're going to turn it up now. So it should get boiling by the time we get all our things, so we can cook our pasta. Like so. Right. While we're waiting for this to cook down, we'll just chop up the garlic. Right. But we want quite a bit of garlic in this, because garlic is Italian. It's nice, gives a nice flavour to the dish, and enhances the flavours of what you've got. And it, you know what they're like. The Italians like their garlic. So like I did before, I'm going to chop it up as best I can, finely. And then I'm going to get some salt on the board to draw those moistures out and to put it down into a paste. Right, so that's 4 cloves of garlic I've just done up there. Right, that goes in, like so. Cook that down, because you don't want raw garlic in your end product. Not very nice. Overpower the dish, ruined. Like I said, balance of flavours. Right, we're going to add the meat at this stage now. We're going to cook that in with that. That's going to give it a lovely flavour and cook down nice. So we want that on a high heat as possible. We want to cook that mince down. That's going to take about 10 minutes. Right, the meat now has had 5 minutes to cook. It's nice cooked, and the meat is cooked now, and there's quite a lot of fat in there. But first we're going to add this pasta. So we're going to add that now. Don't be afraid of it sticking out. because it's going to cook down, it's going to collapse in on itself. We want quite long pasta. But while that's doing that, we want to drain the fat off, because if it's too fatty, you'll end up with a thick layer of grease on top, and it's not very nice. So we want to drain as much of it off as possible. I find it tend easier to use the lid to help the ingredients stop, but I've got the sieve there as well. Anyway. Like so. Right. So now it's not as fatty, and we've reduced the calories that are in there. Look at that. Not very nice on top of your top of your bolognese, is it? We're going to put that on now. Let that continue to cook. So, right, this pasta now is starting to break down. Look, it's folding in nicely, and it'll soon be ready for a stir. So, stir this. Right, we want to add about a teaspoon of puree. You add too much again, you kill the flavour, and it's just horrible. So be careful on how much you're adding, you know. If you feel it needs a bit more, add a bit more. But don't add too much, because you'll destroy the lovely effort you've done in to work to get it like it is. So now put your pasta in, and don't forget to stir your pasta. Even if it's still hard, don't worry, it won't break, because it'll stick together and you'll end up with a clump of pasta in the bottom of the pan, and you won't know what to do except for start again. We don't want to do that. Right, so now I've cooked that tomato puree out a bit. I want to add some of these tomatoes. Like I said again, don't worry about not adding all of it, because you can always come back to it another time. Like so. A bit more. At this stage now, you just want to cook that down a bit, like this pasta. Stir this pasta every 2 minutes. It'll take about 5-6 minutes to cook, and then you want to drain it off then. Just leave it aside for a minute, just to let it rest a second. Right, we got a bit of beef stock here. What I want to do, I want some water, just to make it into a bit of a paste kind of thing. I know it's like a jelly, but you do this, it's much easier to melt down into the stuff, and it adds a bit of flavour, and it helps thicken it as well, because you've got the starch from the pasta in here, which is going to thicken the sauce. So add that in, like so. Stir that up. And taste. Tasting is important. For seasoning, and so you know where you are. Be careful not to overboil your pasta. I like my pasta a little bit of resistance to it. It adds a bit of texture to the dish. You know, if you like soft pasta, then you know that's your idea of pasta. But a lot of chefs will cook pasta al dente, to the tooth. That's what that means, and all that does is gives a bit of resistance to the dish. So you think you've got soft, bit of chewy, and say that crunch or that little bit of resistance. That's that loveliness. Like so. Right, we want to reduce this down. We want quite a thick sauce. It's starting to thicken up now. You're getting lovely tomato. Two more minutes and I'll be ready. Right, the bay leaf now, just add that in, just to give it that extra bit of zing just before the final end, because the bay leaf will react quite quick to the heat, and it'll give it that flavour, that nice flavour to it. Taste. More pepper. Now, what I like to do with my pasta, because the thing about pasta, all it is flour, butter, and water, and then all it is just like you're just eating starch more than anything and fat. But it doesn't have a lot of flavour unless you add lots of salt. And of course, you're adding lots of salt to that, you're going to add too much salt, and it could overpower the dish. So you've got to be mindful of that. But what I like to do instead, I like to get a separate pan when it's cooked, in the pan on a heat, and then with a bit of butter, just melt it down, get that butter through so it enriches the pasta. You know, a lot of people might say, oh, it's a bit fatty, you're putting a bit more calories on. Yeah, but do the calories outweigh the flavour? In my opinion, yes. Fat is flavour. This is too fatty, it's not flavour, it's grease. But butter gives flavour, so don't be too thing if you're on a diet watching calories, because at the end of the day, without fat, we would starve, basically. Yeah, that's ready. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to just drain off our pasta. And then back into the pan to dry it off. Right, make sure you stir in our bolognese frequently so it doesn't catch, but still let it reduce down to thicken that sauce, because otherwise it won't coat the pasta. Right, so now that's in there. I'll be quick. Butter. You don't want too much, because you'll overpower it, or you know it'll be really greasy and fatty. But just enough, just to flavour it. A little bit more, you know, do it all on eye. So I do. That's how every chef has learned to work on doing it. So look, now you've got that lovely sheen to it, and it gives a good presentation as well as a nice flavour. Delicious. Bit of salt. Right, that is ready. Right, so that's reducing nicely there, so we're going to get our tongs. Like so. We're going to twist it in the bowl. When you get in the bowl, just give it a slight twist. It's got a nice base. Then get the rest of your pasta. Presentation. Right. Just want to get a nice big spoon now. Right, final taste to make sure that it's okay and good for your guests or yourself. Yep, that's ready. Take the bay leaf out. You don't want guests or yourself chewing on that. It's not very nice. Like that. Like I said before, just let it cool down a second, or it's going to spit all over your plate, all over yourself. You're going to look a mess. What I like to do, I like to show off the pasta. So I'm going to slot it around, like so. Just to give that pasta a bit of proudness to it. Because what's the point of it being there if you can't see it? So, and yep. And then we get a little bit of coriander, just to give a bit more please to it. And there we are. That is bolognese with linguine pasta. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. Right, now today, this time, we're going to be preparing a creme brulee. Now, a lot of people find this quite difficult, but I can tell you right now, it is not. It's the simplest dessert you can make that's got quite a bit of technicality to it and make you think you're a really good chef. The ingredients we got 200 grams of sugar, 500 ml of cream. We got 5 oranges, but we're going to use 2 for the creme brulee, and we're going to use 3 for decoration. We got 6 eggs and 2 vanilla pods. While I'm prepping this, is a quick video intro on how to make the night complete by making a cocktail.
Cocktails. Cocktails, one of those things that everyone likes, but not many people can afford to do it. So I'm going to show you how to make it quickly, efficiently, and more importantly, really tasty. Okay, so we're going to make a White Russian. I've got my blender here. I'm going to throw some ice in. Now, you don't have to have a blender. You could just whisk this up by hand, but I've got one here. It's easy. I'll show you how to do it. Glug of vodka, straight in there, however brave you want to be. Add a nice glug of milk. There we go, shove him in there, beauty. Okay, now the next one, coffee. Now I've got a really large spoon here, but you only need like a teaspoon of this. So just a little bit of that. It's just going to take the edge off. And then of course sugar to taste. I like it nice and sweet. So nice sugar. Throw it in, blend it up. There we go. Now I like mine with plenty of ice. So on top of a little bit more ice, we have ourselves a wonderful White Russian.
Right, creme brulee. Like I said, some people think it's hard. It really isn't, and it's a nice dish to finish off a lovely meal. Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to put the cream and we're going to put the vanilla pods in the same place, and we're going to boil them. We want to bring the cream up to the boil. Once it's come up to the boil, we want to bring it back down to a simmer, and we want to simmer it for like a minute or 2. And then once we're done with that, then we're done what else we're doing, we're going to bring it back up to the boil. Right, let's come to a boil. Now we're going to turn that down off the hob a second, bring that back down to a simmer. Then we're going to add the orange juice, and then the cream will be ready. When making desserts, always have in your head it's not cooking. Now, it may sound weird, but dessert isn't actually cooking. It's a science. If you're off even by a 0.1 millimeter, it could end up bad for your dessert. If your cake, if you add too much flour because you're off by a 0.1 meter, it'll sink or it'll be too dense. It's the same with every type of cooking when making desserts, so be precise. Weigh your liquids, weigh everything. Double check that everything is the same as it's supposed to be, otherwise it could be disastrous. Right, so the cream is boiling. We're going to add our orange juice of 2 oranges. Make sure you don't burn the cream. Be in mind, if it comes to a boil too quickly, it can be quite disastrous. So just be very thing with it and just stir it constantly every time you get a second. Right, now we're going to add the oranges. And the whole point of this, you're infusing the flavours into it, so you get the full flavour. If I went to a restaurant and wanted orange creme brulee, I wanted to taste the orange and nothing else. The vanilla in there is to give it a bit of taste, and the orange in there gives it the sweetness, and that obviously the orange creme brulee. So we're going to put that back in there now, and we're going to cook that for another minute. Bring that back up to a boil. At the same time, we're going to get 2 eggs and separate them, like so. Now, there's many different ways of doing eggs. A lot of people use them with the shells. I'm going to show you a different way that's quick, easy, and to be honest, it's more hygienic. You may think it's not, but it is. Like that can come off. The reason why it's hygienic is because you're not using a shell. Salmonella. That is what that is. It comes from the backside of a chicken. Salmonella. So, we need the yolk, not the white. So we need 2 bowls. So take the shell off, like so. Ditch the white in your hand, like that. And then let it slip between the fingers, like so. Take off any excess. 1 yolk. We need 6 of these. It's much easier, quicker, and like I said, it's more hygienic because your hands will be cleaner because you've washed them. Don't worry if you get egg yolk in your egg white, because you're not using it. But Try not to get egg white in your egg yolk because it could unbalance everything. Because like I said, it's all about balance, it's all about the science and the ratios of everything. Whisk, and the sugar of 200 grams of sugar you want it in with the egg yolks. But what we're doing here, this is the process of making a crème anglaise, as the French call it, or as the British call it, a custard. Like so, whisk that together so it's thick. So it forms such as a lovely paste. And now what this does is thickens the creme brulee, like so. But the whole problem with this now, you've got to be stirring and pouring. You've got to do a gentle, steady pour and stir at the same time. Because if you left that like that, you'll scramble the eggs and you'll end up with sweet scrambled eggs. Right, and then a gentle pour in, like so, on this cloth, and whisk. Smells lovely. Right, now we want to put this back on the hob on the same pan. See, look, it's got that lovely orange from the orange now. It's got that, taken on that intense orange, and it smells delicious. So you're stirring this now. You want to bring it to a boil again. So what you're doing is you're continuously stirring it from side to side, making sure it doesn't burn, stick to the sides, and scramble. You want to cook the egg out a little bit, but you don't want to scramble it. So just like that, gentle, steady, continuous. And what you're looking for is a thicker consistency. So you want a thick consistency where you run your finger down the bottom of the spoon and it separates and does not move. So just stirring. And the whole point of this, you're bringing it to a boil because it thickens it from the egg that's been added in. This could take up to 2 minutes, just stirring. So, I'm going to lean back the spoon. Another 30 seconds and this will be ready. Right, so stirring it. You want to strain this off now into a jug. I do it into the same jug that the cream came from originally, because it saves on your washing up, which is always a good thing, unless you have someone to do the washing up. You know, but we're never that lucky. Like so. Yeah, see, that's what you want. It separates, it doesn't come across. That's exactly what I want. Right, so into the jug, through a sieve or a conical strainer, or even a muslin cloth that a lot of chefs use to make sure that there is no grit on the vanilla. It's like a cloth with like really fine holes, so it just grabs everything. Right, now we're going to put this into our molds. Now what I've done here, what I prepared earlier, is a tray with water in it, and there's a cloth at the bottom. The reason for this is it's called a bain-marie in French. It's a water bath. So what this does, it creates steam in the oven, so you're steaming it rather than baking it. So you don't bake your egg, you're steaming the egg. And plus, the cloth is there, because this heats up quicker than this. So if this heats up quick, it touches the bottom, it's going to curdle or set the bottom before the rest of it's done, so you either end up with scrambled egg or rubbery and smooth. So be in mind about this. So I use a cloth with water. You only want to fill it halfway above the Dario molds and just fill them up inside. Make sure they're level, because when they bake they can go on an angle and your final presentation they just look a bit weird. So fill them up equally, like so. Like that, and then wipe off any things going at the edge, because if you think that's going to get cooked before the rest of it, so you'll end up with burnt bits, which again will make the dessert go bitter. Always think ahead before you do, otherwise it can go wrong. Right, at the beginning you wanted to preheat the oven to 150 degrees, gas mark 2. If you go any higher, it'll just go wrong. so. Right. Carefully in the oven. Right, like so. Now they go in the oven for 15 minutes. It's best to use a timer. Right, check after 12 minutes to make sure, but it should take about 15 minutes. Right, our creme brulees have now set and they've now cooked. They're fine, they're nice and set on top, look, so now we can get ready with the rest of it. But before I start putting the sugar on top and caramelize them, I want to do a few little bits as a little bit extra for presentation. So what we're first going to do, we're going to cut an orange in half and take the juice and we're going to segment an orange. So if we do that right now, I'm going to juice this orange. Like so. Right, set aside later. Now segmenting an orange, it's pretty simple. All you're doing is taking the skin off and exposing the flesh and then going in between the lines of the pith to take it out, so you get like a nice, you just get the orange, you don't get the crap. So top and tail, make sure that you expose the orange. It will not work unless you expose the orange. So make sure that you have a nice clean cut without any pith and make sure it's quite straight. Like so. Bin. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to go down following the curve of the orange to make sure we keep its shape as best as possible. So at an angle, start, you want to go through the flesh. So down and around to the bottom. Now if you don't get it, don't worry about it, you can always go back round and do it. So that's what we're doing. We're exposing the inner flesh and taking away the pith, taking away that outer pith and exposing that. So all the way around both oranges like so. Try to keep the shape of the orange as best as possible for your presentation and yeah, just presentation. So around, so. Well, so that's what you're left with. You're left with the flesh and there's literally no pith around it apart from the lines. If you look in between the oranges, you've got the lines. You want to go in between the lines. Now the orange joins into another pith in the center, so you want to try and avoid that as best as possible. So go like that far in from the outside, and then in an angle, cut. Other side, same thing, cut. That is a segment. No pith, just the flesh. Nice stuff. So again, between the lines, like so. And any excess juice then, squeeze. So you're not wasting much. Right, so we got our segments now for our decoration. We'll come back to that in a minute. Right, now I've got a pan on the heat with 100 grams of sugar in the pan, like so. We're going to add this orange juice as well. Mix that up and we're just going to bring that down so it's like a nice sticky syrup. Now you're reducing this, it's just going to infuse the flavours into the sugar. You get a nice sweet orangey and it's just going to enhance the flavour of that orange in there. And what we're going to do then, when that's starting to get really sticky, we're going to add those and we're going to make like a sticky coating to go all over them. Right? Try not to let it reduce too much because you want to keep a nice bit of sauce left, but you know, you want to reduce it enough. Like so. Now we're going to add the oranges. Give them a stir in this sticky sauce. And that's going to coat them through and glaze them, which is what we want. Right, so we're going to put that there over there on a lower heat. So, and then in this pan, I'm going to get some sugar on. This is a real ball ache, just waiting for the sugar, but make sure that you keep your eye on this at all times, because if you take your sugar too far, you burn it, it goes bitter, you have to start again. There's no point in saving it, because it'll ruin the dish, and it'll just ruin your experience in eating this. Okay, so we'll let that go now. The sugar's starting to heat up now, you can see it. When you're doing sugar, try not to stir it when it's melting down, because you'll crystallize it. Because of the cold interacting with the heat, sugar's a bit of a pain in the backside. Everyone has problems with it. You can be a Michelin star chef, you're going to have a problem with sugar. So don't worry about it. If you mess it up, you can always start again. But remember, keep an eye on it and try to prevent stirring it with a spoon. If you're going to stir it, move the pan, so you're getting the same residual heat, so it isn't heating hot with cold and it's going to crystallize. Right, so they're coming down nicely. Nice sticky orangey syrup there. That's lovely, that is. So we're just waiting for this to come down. Right, the sugar's starting to caramel now. Right, well that's doing that now. We'll start to get some of this sugar on here. Caster sugar on top. Like that. You may think, oh, that's a lot of caster sugar. That's going to burn before it actually caramelizes. But when it's set, just twist it around so you get a nice even layer. Then tap off the excess. Like so. And there you go. That will be the nice thin layer into that lovely, smooth, velvety creme brulee. Well, when you're doing this as well, you're going to need a blowtorch. Now, if you don't have a blowtorch, you can always use a grill. But if you're going to use a grill, just be careful, keeping your eye on it. Sugar will burn before it might be all done. Right. Right, that's coming down now. It's nice golden colour, and it's coming down slowly. That's the best thing you want. Try not to heat it up too quickly, otherwise your outsides will burn before the middle cooks. So make sure that is quite down low. And like I said, don't stir it with a spoon, just move it round with the pan. You got that same heat, so it's not going to crystallise. So you're just moving it around so the sugars just move a bit more. As you can see, the outside is starting to colour more than the middle. That's where the pan is getting too hot. So if you see that in that action, move around, move it around, and that. See, look, the sugar now is dissolved. Now with this bit, get a spoon. You want to cool it down, but without getting heat so it burns. So spoon up like that, continuously for about 2 minutes, and what you'll see is the change. You'll start getting thicker, and the streams will start getting a bit more bulkier and a bit more caramelly, and then you're ready to do some sugar work. Now I know you're thinking, why do I want to do sugar work? Presentation looks nice and it shows a skill. You don't have to do it, but I'm choosing to do it in any case. So look, pick them up like that. Don't be afraid to get some height, because the air cools it down. Careful, the pan does get quite hot. So as you can see, the strands now starting to form. There, nearly there. Another 30 seconds and this will be ready to start doing some stuff. So now, new spoon, preferably a dessert spoon or a tablespoon at this stage. Right, you want to get enough sugar, like so, this, and just go like that around. It creates a lot of mess. Just spread it so you get all those hairline sugars, look. Keep on going until all the sugar like no longer wants to play ball. There we go. Let's hold that in the air now, just to make sure it all sets. Now be careful, it might be quite hot while doing it. Just grab it as a bunch. Up to the top. Slide it all off. So, and you get that lovely sugar ball with hairline sugar. And next, now you put that there and let it do its thing. Right, now we're nearly ready to present, so sugar. Blowtorch. Now when you do this in a blowtorch, don't go directly because you'll burn the sugar. So just gently moving side to side, getting an even cooking and caramelization on the sugar. You might realise you might not have enough, which in this case I don't, so I'm going to put some more on. Excess, right. As you can see, look, side to side, make sure they don't burn, side to side, melt in the caramel. I'm not burning it as such, it's just caramelizing it. There you go. Let that just go cold for a second and you'll have a nice crack on that. Right, now, our oranges have been cooking for a couple of minutes. They are ready to be going. Right, so, the oranges, just spoon on the plate. So you've cooked the oranges in that lovely syrup. So you're getting that lovely sweet caramelly taste to be served with it. Don't worry about too runny of the sauce. That's beautiful for it. Extra bit of sweetness, like so. Spread them around a bit more. Sugar on top. And there, oh god, is my orange creme brulee. Thank you.